Hello and welcome. I am Sanjay Chaturvedi, and today we are going to speak about Benami Property Transactions and Act. Very burning subject, very neglected too. Though it was all started in 1988 that the Benami property and the Benami transactions must be curbed, and these are all those transacting in the property are unknown names, and there were huge transactions were going on to evade the tax and for various other illegal purposes. The government in 1988 came up with Benami, but it was a toothless tiger. But very recently, Benami Property Act 2016 had revamped the entire transaction. They defined the transaction, they given the explanation to the Benami property tax, Benami property transactions, and the Benami property per se, that what is the Benami property. And this time it was that even the receiver of the Benami property or Benami in the transaction parties were also put in as a guilty, and onus will be on them for facing the music if they found in the Benami property transactions. So first thing first, let us start with the definition and how it is been enforced and what are those provisions with. See, knowingly or unknowingly, you never know that you are entering into a Benami, and mind you, ignorance of law is not an excuse. You have to adhere to the rule of the land, and since the act is already in offing, you and I must understand that what is the Benami property and how it is being going to define. Sometimes unknowingly we enter into the Benami. Benami transaction prohibition was amended in the act was amended in 2016, and it was enforced from on the 11th August 2016. Now it can be also called as Prohibition of the Benami Property Transaction Act 1988. What is Benami property? A Benami property means any property which is the subject matter of the Benami transaction. That is any property, whether it is movable or immovable. So any Benami property which is having the subject, that is on which the transactions are happening, is the Benami property. That is very simple definition. But now we'll go in the transactions. Now what is a transaction? The transaction in Benami property is that it means there are some in the section there was some definitions given. I'll try to just make it very simpler for our understanding, that a transaction or an arrangement, we sometimes do a barter system also. Sometimes we also own a property which is not directly purchased by us, and in whatsoever means, when you are owning a property by yourself or through some proxy or some ostensible ownership, which is basically an arrangement of where you have not purchased some particular property, then it is the arrangement is called as Benami transaction. It is also where a property is transferred to. It has to be a transfer. So when you are transferring to or is held by, where you are already either you are transferred to or in the transit, or it is held by a person, and the consideration of which the property has been provided or paid by another person. So if suppose you are holding a property and the arrangement is that somebody else is paying for you, then it is a Benami transaction per se. And the definition doesn't end over here. It further says that The property is held for the immediate or future benefit, direct or indirect, of the person who has provided the consideration, except when the property is held by. So there is an exception, held by, that is the extensible owners like Karta of an HUF, or a person standing in the fiduciary capacity for the benefit of the another person towards whom he stands in such capacity, and includes a trustee, a executor, a partner. These are all ostensible owners, director of a company, a depository, or a participant as an agent of a depository under the Depository Act 1996, and any other person as may be notified by the central government for the purpose. So these are some few exemptions or explanations to the sections, so that somebody else is paying. So sometimes you never know, because some guardians also can be purchasing the property for the pupil. So that is why we have to have that explanation. Further, the explanation says any person being an individual in the name of his spouse or in the name of any child of such individual, and the consideration of such property has been provided or paid out of the known sources of the individual, provided it is purchased from the known sources of that particular individual. So you need to tell the authority, income tax department, saying that from where you have purchased the property, from what is the source of the income, and whether you have paid all the taxes. So basically the purpose behind it, that you should not evade the tax, and the taxation or the exchequers must get their part, or the shares of the taxation which they are supposed to get. And the fourth exemption is that any person in the name of his brother or sister or lineal ascendants or descendants, where the names of brother or sister or lineal ascendant or descendant and the individual appear as joint owner in any document, and the consideration of such property has been provided or paid out of the known source of the individual. So you need to tell the exchequers that from where you are going to purchase. Any ostensible ownership is allowed, provided you need to tell the exchequers from where the funds have come. Now, the second aspect of the definition of the transaction, I have told you the exemption of the first rule. The second rule is that a transaction or an arrangement in respect of a property carried out or made in a fictitious name, XYZ, you must have seen Aadhaar card and all those documents. Now sometimes people, those who are into fraudulent transactions, they make fictitious names, put fictitious KYC documents, and sometimes it is like this. Mind you, whenever you are giving a photocopy of the KYC, you should always, when you are certifying as a true copy of that particular copy, you must write the purpose and the date when you are signing and authenticating that particular photocopy of your KYC document. Otherwise, once you sign it, and the photocopy can be used anywhere, either to buy a SIM card, or maybe go in for purchasing a property on your name, or opening a bank account, or anything a KYC document can do. Further, the third component of the definition is that a transaction or an arrangement in respect of a property where the owner of a property is not aware or denies knowledge of such ownership. Suppose if owner says, I don't know that somebody has purchased the property on his name, or whether I am owning some particular property, so that the property becomes this. The fourth part of the definition is it is there in the Act itself. The fourth part is that it says that a transaction or an arrangement in respect of a property where the person providing the consideration is not traceable or is fictitious. So a person who is paying you the money is not traceable from where the source have come. So in that case, there's some exemption in the sections it is being given that for the removal of the debt, it is hereby declared that the Benami transaction shall not include any transaction involving the allowing of possession of any property to be taken or retained in part performance of a contract referred to under section 53A of the Transfer of Property Act 1882 if under any law for the time being in force, that is, the consideration of such property has been provided by the person to whom possession of the property has been allowed, but the person who has granted possession thereof continues to hold ownership of such property. First. Second, there is a part performance. Secondly, the stamp duty has been paid. Thirdly, the contract has been registered. Fourthly, it is basically exemptions where the documents are being registered and the stamp duty is paid. Any document which is not registered or which is not paid any stamp duty, say MOU, such documents are void ab initio. Any property document or any property transaction must be registered. You must have seen in the Model Tenancy Act also the government wants that even a lease, that is not retrospective, it is prospective. If any lease has been entered into, all such document must be registered. So any authority, any court, any officer who founds that this particular document which you produce, it is not paid a stamp duty or registration. Mind you, the allotment letter is also subject to the stamp duty registration. So if it has been found, they will impound those documents immediately and they will void your transaction. So be very careful. Any property, it is there in the Transfer of Property Act, it is there in the Indian Registration Act 1908, where any property which is been transacted more than 100 rupees must be registered and the registration must be, now you must have seen that previously it was anywhere you can register, but in the circle of that particular property you need to be registered. What are the penalties? Section 53(1), which says that where any person enters into a Benami transaction in order to defeat the provision of any law or to avoid payment of statutory dues or to avoid payment to creditors, the beneficial owner, Benamidar, and any other person who abates or induce any person to enter into the Benami transaction shall be guilty of the offence of the Benami transaction. What does it mean? It means that to avoid payment, if the intention are being caught, the intention, you forget about the prima facie evidence. If the intentions are being proved that it was actually a fiduciary or a false transaction, then such person is subject to the penalties. What are those penalties? Whoever is found guilty of the offence of Benami transaction referred to in the above section shall be punishable with rigorous imprisonment, not simple imprisonment, rigorous imprisonment, and for a term which shall not be less than 1 year, and it can up to go to 7 years, with a liable to fine which may extend up to 25% of the fair market value of the property. So the penalties are not less, subject to, and both, that is, you can have both also. Penalties further says any person under section 54, any person who is required to furnish information. Now, a person who is not involved in the transaction, maybe a chartered accountant, maybe a tax consultant, maybe a facilitator, maybe a broker, maybe a estate broker, maybe a intermediary, a person who is required to furnish information under this act knowingly gives false information to any authority or furnishes any false document in any proceeding under this act shall be also punishable with rigorous imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 6 months, but which may extend to 5 years, and shall also be liable to fine which may extend up to 10% of the fair market value of the property, and the fair market value will be ready reckoner value. Two Supreme Court judgments, very famous on 27th April 2007, Bina Pani Paul versus Pratima Ghosh, which says that the Honorable Supreme Court has held that the case of Binami transaction, a first appeal was preferred there again before the High Court. Money is only one of the factors for proving Binami transaction, but intentions also plays a significant role in relation. And the second authority in this is Nand Kishore Mehra versus Sushila Mehra on 2nd July 1995. Mind you, it is 1988 Act. The Honorable Supreme Court said that a Binami transaction imposed by Section 4 of the Binami Transactions Prohibition applies to a Binami transaction of purchase of property by a person in the name of his wives of unmarried daughters, provided you need to tell the exchequers that what are your source of information. I hope you must have enjoyed such type of knowledge, information, me to research more on various aspects of real estate and allied subjects. If you have some suggestions, do drop in the drop box below, or like this channel and send me an email on editor@saptakala.com. I'll be happy to answer you. And if suppose you have some new subjects or some new issues, if you think that there has to be researched and I should come up with some more information like this, I'll be glad to have all your informations and your feedback in future. Thank you very much.